SWEGTA! Good morning, everybody, and by morning, I of course mean good 5:38 p.m. My sleeping schedule is not ideal, folks. Nevertheless, we're gonna get into some Bully news. So, let's begin with Bully 2. So, a while back, Dan Houser did this interview with IGN, and the interview has been mixed in reception. IGN hyped this interview up to the max, and the interview itself was kind of short and didn't cover a whole lot of new stuff. It was basically just oh, what have you been up to as of late? Okay, cool. What about GTA 5? That was a big one. What about GTA 6? That's gonna be a big one, huh? I did find the interview interesting because at one point, Dan Houser talks a little bit about Bully 2. The interviewer asks him, why did we never get a Bully 2? To which he explains, it came down to bandwidth issues. I posted a clip of this on my channel, and I saw a few people in the comments, at least initially, kind of bemoaning the lack of an answer. They said like, okay, well he's not actually like saying much when responding to this, but I beg to differ. You see, Rockstar attempted Bully 2 on at least 2 occasions, and as we now know, both of those projects ended up being cancelled. So, what happened? Over the years, I've seen a lot of people say that it comes down to Rockstar just not wanting to take the risk involved in making a Bully sequel. It's just way too controversial, and people nowadays are way too sensitive, woke, blah blah blah. And although I do think it's an interesting point, and it's not without merit completely, you know, back when Bully came out in 2006, there was even a protest outside of the Rockstar Games headquarters in New York City. At the helm of it, Jack Thompson and the Peaceaholics. And of course, you had people on TV complaining about the violence in the game and saying, oh, this might actually lead to an increase in schoolyard violence. I always find it funny when politicians and talking heads on TV complain about violence in video games, as though there's a correlation between that and youth violence. In fact, youth violence has been on a steady decline since video games became all the more popular and mainstream, but never mind that. So yeah, the game was controversial from the word go, and because of that, I do think there's a little bit of merit to this argument. However, I've always been of the belief that it more comes down to just timing. Like, Dan Houser himself even explained back in the 2010s that they were just waiting for the right moment to pursue making Bully 2, and that he wants to do it at some point. And now that he's left the company and IGN asked him, why did that never happen? He calmly explains that it's because they didn't have enough people. I believe, and this is just my opinion, mind you, but I believe that it has to do with the chaotic development cycle of Red Dead Redemption 1, followed by the also probably chaotic, very like crunch-heavy development cycle of GTA 5 and Max Payne 3. You see, as time goes on, Rockstar invests way more time and resources into each individual game. Way back in the day, we used to get games on a pretty frequent basis from Rockstar. It's obviously not the case anymore. Nowadays, it's like a new game every 5 to 8 years, which is kinda sad, but at the same time, I mean, I guess the games are way more fleshed out. If I had to venture a guess, I would say that they initially wanted to make Bully 2, and then they cancelled it for the sake of reallocating some of the development team to work on Red Dead Redemption 1, saving it from being a total catastrophe. And subsequently, they made another attempt at developing Bully 2, only to reallocate a lot of those developers to work on Max Payne 3 and or GTA 5 instead. It's really sad because I think this game deserves a sequel more than any other title in Rockstar's catalog, at least from a creative standpoint. I think it's definitely one of the most charming and interesting games that they've ever made, because by making a game on a way smaller scale like they did with Bully, they had to invest more personality into all of the individual characters. Even the townsfolk that you see in the game all have unique and distinct personalities. If you take your time to actually listen to the NPCs in the game, you'll find that they have way more personality than initially meets the eye. But hey, I digress. So the last thing that I want to mention in this section of the video is whether or not I think Bully 2 is going to happen. I've been asked this by many fans in the community. Various forms of that question have been asked, and my answer has always been, I think it's entirely possible that a Bully sequel happens. I think it's just a matter of timing. Again, as Dan Houser himself explained, it comes down to just timing. Like, when do we do this? When is the ideal window of time for us to pursue this project? And the way that I see it, I think it makes sense for them to do something different after Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA 6. I mean, at that point, you've pushed out the 2 biggest titles in your catalog. maybe it's time to expand on something else. And I think the higher-ups at Rockstar realize that, you know, you can't just keep milking the same couple games ad infinitum. You need to have some variety in between. And this has always been the case, mind you. I mean, we've seen them make a ton of other games other than GTA over the years. It's just been slowing down because, again, each game has to be this massive, spectacular project with a ton of detail invested into it, and like this amazing level of attention to detail. But then again, you should make something different on occasion just to make sure that, you know, GTA remains something very special that people are hyped for. Otherwise, it just becomes like a Call of Duty situation where it's like, okay, there's a new one out again. Has it even been a year? So yeah, I don't think it's a garbage answer. I don't think it's a non-answer. I think that he actually provided some very useful information because it corroborates what I believe. So, yes! Alright, so up next we have a former Rockstar dev speaking out about the terrible working conditions involved in the making of Bully. Like the original game, not any of the sequels. The following is an interview conducted with Andrew Wood. Andrew Wood provided some of the 3D models for Bully, but at a certain point in development, as we'll see mentioned in the interview, they had some issues with personnel leaving or just having breakdowns, so Andrew Wood took over a few other duties involved, like making character concept art. So there's a gaming magazine called Retro Gamer that interviewed Andrew Wood, and in this interview, Andrew Wood described Bully's development as fun, weird, hellish, chaotic, and an awesome time. I reflect fondly on the people and the times and the crazy things we did after hours, but then I think about the stress. Maybe it sounds hyperbolic, but I can kinda understand what he means by this, because as it turns out, they had 120-hour work weeks, and at one point, the higher-ups were so adamant about developers not leaving their post, not even for lunch or dinner, that they would actually have a catering business provide the food directly in the office for the developers to eat and then immediately go back to work. It's not a healthy environment to be in. It might sound kind of fancy, like, oh, the food is being brought to you, but in actuality, it's like, you can't leave. You risk losing your job if you do, so just sit down and eat the gruel. There were constant internal conflicts due to the stress of always being at work. A couple of people had mental breakdowns. They snapped. It was difficult to work in that kind of environment, but I knew that Bully was going to be worth it in the end, so I stuck it out. Okay, so I mentioned Andrew Wood taking on some of the other duties involved in development. This is something that is actually not mentioned in the article. I, as a mega Bully fan, knew this because I've looked at Andrew Wood's work in the past, like his online portfolio. I think I even had a bit of an exchange with him in the comment section at one point. So before we proceed, I just want to show you some of the stuff that he actually did so you get an idea of like how he bounced between different positions in this game and how much of a crucial role he played in the game's development. So these are some of the assets made for New Coventry. You have the Hung Low restaurant, one of the almost totally demolished or fallen apart buildings where you do the Rudy mission, I believe. I don't know if this building ever appears in the game, but I know this is the Blue Ball safe house. You then have some Blue Skies assets, Wonder Meats, and then you have this section right here. It's a different version of the place where you turn on the power. And then you have these little interesting huts? I don't know what to call them. They're like makeshift homes for the townies. I always imagine townies coming out of these like pissed off wasps when you make your way through the chem plant. I know these things kind of exist in the chem plant, but not really. A bunch of detail has been removed and they're basically just container looking things. You then have some more Blue Skies assets, various buildings. You can still find these in the map. If you actually look at the outside of the chem plant, you'll also see some remains of this barricade, this makeshift barricade made by the townies to, I guess, keep the normies out. Again, a lot of the detail was removed, and by the end of it, it's just kind of like a flimsy put together fence thing. Now, the following is my favorite out of all the assets he made, and I'm pretty disappointed that it didn't make it into the final game. This is the Nerd Battle Wagon. This was actually supposed to be used during the Defender of the Castle mission. You then have the Police Chopper. It says final game asset, even though it's not. False advertising, Andrew Wood. How dare you? But like I said, Andrew Wood also did some of the character concept art. Here you can see Gary, Pete, Eunice, and Mr. Grant. I was asked to paint these at last minute to help out the concept artist when we were pressed for time. I had a lot of fun doing them. So jumping back to the interview, I just want to read one more snippet. I love the game, and I love the fact that almost 20 years later, people are still cherishing it. For anyone from Rockstar who might be reading this, people would definitely cherish a 20th anniversary remaster too. I would personally prefer Bully 2, but if nothing else, a remaster would be delightful. And I mean an actual remaster, not like Anniversary Edition garbage. I don't like it. I know some of you play a lot of Anniversary Edition, but I just can't. The sound effects are broken, the textures are broken, I don't like it. With all that said, now we have the final news story of this video. The first time that I saw this, I was not gonna include it in a video because I was like, oh, okay, well that's kinda interesting, I guess, but I don't know if people are interested in hearing me yammer about this. But then 10 of you, at the very least, sent me links and screenshots of this, asking me to talk about it. So, you know, I am a man of the people after all, so I guess I'll talk about it. So, Domino's Pizza posted a screenshot of the Bully map. If you know, you know. Again, quite a few of you sent me this, but I'm just gonna credit the first one who did it, so thank you, Stiff Chris, for sending me this thing. I like how at the bottom of it, you can see GTA 6 will be released, but this is above it. It's like, no. Never mind that. Here's the Bully map. If you know, you know. I guess when people saw this and they thought about sending it to me, they wondered, does he know? Well, I do know now, so thank you. Thank you kindly. How do you guys feel about this format, by the way? Should I do more videos where I just, like, take all relevant Rockstar news stories that I can find and just condense them into one video? I think it's fun. Like, I actually enjoy talking about this, and it feels good to just cover some Bully news again. Even if it is, you know, Domino's. But if nothing else, we at least covered Domino's Pizza, and Dan Houser talking about Bully 2, and Andrew Wood, who played a massive role in the game's development, so hats off to you, Andrew Wood. By the way, Andrew, if you see this video and you want to do like an interview or something, then let me know. Like, I feel like the Bully community would gladly check that out. But before I end this video, I want to ask you, the audience, yes, you, right there, I see you. I want to ask you how you feel about Dan Houser's answer regarding Bully 2. Like, does it satisfy you in any way? That was kind of a weird way to phrase that, but you know what I mean. Because I actually do. I think that it's a useful answer because it totally goes against the notion that Bully 2 never happened because of people being too sensitive. The original game thrived on negative publicity, and it did so by delivering an amazing game with not a perfect storyline, but a very likable cast of characters and a phenomenal soundtrack. So I feel like with Bully 2, would it be controversial? Yeah, I don't know if it would be to the same extent that the original game was, because at that point you could just point to the first game and be like, well, you know, you guys said that all of this bad stuff would happen on schoolyards because of this game, and then none of it ever happened. You also said that it was going to be like a Columbine thing, which it wasn't at all. And now you're saying the same thing about the sequel? Like, just shut up. But yeah, the issue was never controversy. The issue was we don't have enough people to juggle all of these games simultaneously. Anyway, that's it for this video. You folks, as always, stay classy. Peace. Big thank you to all the channel members who support what I do here on YouTube. Ben Struble, Uagrimsrud, Jake Johnson, Yippee, GreenX, Riley Who, Wardog1220, Zarpies, X2, BartyX Official, Majin151, Super Wildcat, RallyBake24, Cartel 14 Volts, Adam Listener, Sean McCabe, Don Hatter, Nick Skis, Christian, Scoofguard Nielsen, Mr. Synonym, Mikey G, Vader89GG, Maisie, I'm Resolution, Kaylin, Lettuce Grilled Bacon, Link, Beancord for Gwandi, Cobalt Mischief, Senpai Walk, Mojave Moron, Username, Excessive Beats, Kian B, The Outsider Jess, J Torok, Dino Bajik, Adrian BC, DN0001, Hustla818, Gavin McKinstry, Stabbing Procedure, The Qua, Codox Magnum, Delinquent, Jobad56, Slappin, Bobo Dex, Jorge Alonso, name inserted here, Smash Rat Despise, URL Ratalada, Josh Matheson, and Aiden Jensen. And by the way, shout out to Vader89GG for gifting a bunch of memberships. Thank you, Vader. Live long and prosper. Well, that's Star Trek, but you know what I mean.